Hey guys, how are you? Happy New Year's Eve edition of the Daily Juice podcast with me, Matt Perrault. How are you? We are here every single morning, even on holidays. New Year's Eve day, New Year's Day, always here. Thanks to BettingPros.com. We're always being brought to you by our great sponsor, BetMGM. If you've not jumped on the offer, today may be the day to do it. If you don't have a BetMGM account, you have two national semifinals happening today on New Year's Day. It is a football, food, and fun day. $10 bet to win $150 on any event. Use that promo code JUICE150 when you get a new account at BetMGM, BetMGM.com, or on the BetMGM app. JUICE150, $10 bet gets you $150 in free bets from BetMGM. Okay, the video for this always found on YouTube, audio, wherever you get your podcasts. So I am taping this tonight. It is currently 9:18 Pacific time. We don't know what's happening as of yet for the Wisconsin-Arizona State game. That game's happening here in Vegas. It's a late night. It's a late game. So far, so good. It's 20-6 Wisconsin. We're laying 6 in that game. So that's we get that. It's a winning day. As of right now, we're 1-1. Tennessee-Purdue goes way over. That game was insane. Tennessee got screwed, but way over on the 64.5 there. That game wound up with a 48-45 final in overtime. Purdue winning that game. North Carolina got spanked by South Carolina. We laid the 9.5 there. Great closing line value. Dave Sherapan and I spent quite a bit of time on the Bostonian versus the book talking about closing line value today or yesterday and how little it means, really. It matters about winning tickets and winning games and winning bets. You know, I had 9.5. The number closed at 13. Gigantic steam all on North Carolina. All of it does not come in. It's a big win for the books. South Carolina trounces their rival in North Carolina 38-21. So we were wrong there. So if whiskey holds, it's a 2-1 day, a winning day for us. Not bad. We'll take it. Unfortunately, the Warriors game, which I was going to bet, Warriors-Nuggets, that game got canceled due to COVID. So that game off the board. So we only had 3 plays going. So it should be a 2-1 day. So we'll see if Arizona State comes back here, but I don't think so. So Wisconsin should win and cover, and then we get the 2-1 day. Winning day for us here on a Thursday into a Friday. All right. So let's go in order here. There are 4 bowl games. I have a half unit and 2 1-unit plays. All right. I'm comfortable in the semifinals, the Cotton Bowl, Orange Bowl, given the protocols, given how these teams have approached COVID, given how I feel like we have a pretty good idea as to the injury reports and who is in and who is out. Now, we obviously can get curveballs, but I feel comfortable laying full units for the semifinals. So I've done that, and I've got a half unit play with the Gator Bowl for Wake Forest and Rutgers. Rutgers was not bowl eligible. Rutgers was not supposed to be in this bowl game, but due to COVID problems and everything else, Rutgers steps in to take on Wake Forest here. The number is 16.5, okay? It opened at 13.5. It's been steamed up to 16.5. The total is 63 points, okay? Wake is a fun football team that likes to put up a lot of points. They average 41.3 points per game. That's fourth best in the country. Rutgers' defense is not horrible. They give up 25.6 points per game. However, this is a passing attack that is putting up 312 yards of offense per game. This is an offense that throws 8.3 yards per pass play, facing a Rutgers defense that gives up 241 yards of total passing offense and 8.7 yards per pass play. That's 119th in the country. Wake Forest should just go out. I mean, they're going to blow the doors off this team, okay? But I have a sneaking suspicion that Wake might pull the dogs off. Rutgers offense only scores 18 points per game. They may score a little bit against Wake Forest, okay? But I'm not going to play around with this too much. 16.5 is a lot. It screams backdoor. It screams Wake Forest going ahead and pulling the dogs off. Rutgers 6-6 against the number this year. Wake Forest 6-7 against the number this year. But, I mean, they score points, okay? What we know about Wake is they put points up and they score a ton. You know, they didn't score a lot against Pittsburgh in their last game in the Big East, in the ACC championship game. only scored 21, but they scored 41 against Boston College, 27 against Clemson, 45 against NC State, 55 against North Carolina, 45 against Duke, 70 against Army, 40 against Syracuse, 37 against Louisville, 37 against Virginia, 35 against Florida State. Okay? I'm going first half. I'm going to lay the 9.5 in the first half. Wake Forest against Rutgers for a half a unit, and just have Wake come out here in Jacksonville and put up, 21 points. Rutgers is maybe scoring 7, maybe 10. Wake is getting at least 3 touchdowns in the first half. If I get a 21-10 first half, up by 11 points, we're good. We cover the 9.5. I'm not going to worry about the back door. I do think Wake kills them. Maybe the under is the play as well because the total is 63. I don't know if Rutgers scores all that much. So Wake Forest team total, not a bad bet there. I may double down on that myself going into this game with Wake Forest and Rutgers team total. But for the sake of the podcast, half a unit, Wake Forest minus 9.5, half a unit in the first half against Rutgers. That's a 11 a.m. Eastern time kick. It's an 8 a.m. Pacific time kick. Early game for the Gator Bowl here on New Year's Eve day. So just mark that down. Bet it now. If you get this podcast overnight, first thing in the morning, this game's going to kick really early for Wake Forest and Rutgers. Wake Forest minus 9.5 in the first half for a half a unit. Okay, first national semifinal. Alabama against Cincinnati. Number is now 14. Books in Vegas have been very hesitant to go to 14. Everyone else is at 14. FanDuel, DraftKings, everyone's at 14, okay? So here we are with a Bama team without John Mechie III, who's out with a ACL tear. And that's a major blow, a major loss for this team here who, look, this offense for Alabama has been okay, has not been outstanding. It's been good in certain moments, but it's also had its problems protecting Bryce Young. Alabama is 7-6 to the number this year. Cincinnati 8-5 to the number this year. Away from home, 3-3 for Cincinnati, 3-3 for Alabama against the number. Bama did obviously win by 17 and cover a 6-point dogs to Georgia. Cincinnati, for the first time in the 2021 season, will be catching points. And not just points, they're catching 14 points. They were 8-5 to the number when they were laying points. They laid 10.5 to Houston, covered. 14.5 to East Carolina, covered. 9.5 to Southern Miss, covered. Okay? They did have a stretch in the month of November, late October, early November, where they were winning games but not covering and not being all that impressive until they finally got the news that they were going to be in, or at least having a shot to get into the college football playoffs. And then here comes Cincinnati, okay? They played really well down the stretch. They played aggressive football, and Desmond Ridder cannot turn the football over. This is a monster stat for this game. Cincinnati cannot lose the turnover battle. They just can't. They could get blown out. Cincy's averaging 39 points per game. Alabama's giving up 20.8. 18th best in the country versus 7th best in the country. Alabama is scoring 42 points per game, 3rd best in the country. Cincinnati, 16.8 points per game given up, 6th best in the country. 4.2 yards per play is 4th best in the country. Alabama, 6.5 yards per play is 11th best in the country. Other side, Cincy's offense, 6.8 yards per play. Alabama, 4.5. That's 5th and 6th best in the country. Sense the trend here? This is strength on both sides of the football, okay? Here is the one big difference in this game, in my opinion. The sack potential for Cincinnati. Cincinnati gets after the quarterback, and Cincinnati picks off the quarterback. 4.23 opposing intercept thrown percentage is 6th best in the country. They are 12th best in the country in sack percentage. Alabama is 73rd in protecting their quarterback with sack percentage, all right? They get after the quarterback. For the most part, Cincinnati does a good job of protecting Desmond Ridder. 17th best in sack percentage in the country for their offensive line. Alabama is 9th best. They have a higher sack percentage than Cincinnati does. But Cincy can bother Bryce Young. And we saw that offensive line not perform well for Alabama in some pretty big games, namely against Auburn. Okay, yeah, I know they won the game. I mentioned it last night that they lost. They won that game. I get it. But I don't know. You start looking at some of these games for Alabama. You start looking at some of their performances. And look, I understand that Bama's been very good. But the A&M game, A&M got off to a fast start, and they got after Bryce Young, and they made him make mistakes. They turned the football over. Bama was favored by 18.5, and they lost the game outright, okay? They were 21-point favorites against Auburn. They won by 2. Miracle they're in this tournament because of that. And then they played extremely well against Georgia, but the world was on Georgia. I mean, everyone thought Bama was in big trouble. You let Nick Saban be an underdog, play that card. Now it's the little engine that could. Now it's Cinderella. I got 14 points, 1 unit, Cincinnati, plus 14. I'm going against the public. I'm going against a lot of the money moves. I'll ride with the books here. Cincy, plus 14. I don't mind a money line sprinkle either to shock the world. I don't think they do it, but I do think Cincinnati plays a tight game. I don't mind an underplay in this game either at 57.5. I don't think it can be a shootout. Desmond Ridder, though, cannot turn the football over. You got to make Bryce Young uncomfortable. You got to pick him off and sack him, and that Cincy defense has got to be stout. It's a huge, huge factor in this game. Bearcats' ability to shut down this offense for Alabama, because I don't think Cincy's offense will score a ton, but I do think they can move the ball on Bama. I don't think Bama's defense is as good as I thought it was going to be, or a lot of people thought it was going to be. I just, look at the points that have been scored for Alabama. Yeah, they scored 41 points against Georgia and Arkansas, but I could see a game very similar to that LSU game, 20-14, the win for Bama. Could see it very similar. The under comes in by 32.5 points in that game. It was 66.5 was the total in that game. Came flying under. I could see an underplay here if you want to jump on it. I think an under possibility is definitely there. So 1 unit, Cincinnati, plus 14. One more game. It's the other semifinal at night, happening in Miami, 7:30 Eastern Time kick. Georgia versus Michigan. The world's on Michigan, plus 7.5. Why? They're 11-2 against the spread. Everyone's on Michigan, okay? 8-2 in the Big Ten, 5-0 over their last 5, 5-1 on the road. Georgia's 6-1 on the road. 6-1. Yes, they lost to Alabama. Yes. But let's start talking about what Michigan does well. Michigan needs to run the football. To be an effective offense, Michigan's got to run the football, 5.3 yards per rush, 12th best in the country. Can Michigan run the ball on Georgia? Has anybody run the ball on Georgia? Bama threw all over Georgia, threw all over them, crushed them with their pass. Bryce Young was awesome. Didn't really run on them, threw on them. 2.7 yards per rush for Georgia. Now they're rested. Now they're angry. I think McNamara and company, they've got to throw the ball up against an offense, or sorry, against a defense that gives up 5.8 yards per pass play to opposing offenses. 3rd in the country. Now they throw 8.3 yards, and for 228 yards, that's pretty good, but you only pass 181.8 yards on average against the Georgia defense in Georgia secondary. They're going to be flying. They really are. The one thing is Michigan does not give up sacks. Early in this game, if McNamara is getting hit by Georgia, look out. They're number 2 in sack percentage given up, okay? 2.7% of the time. You don't sack McNamara. Why? They run the ball. They don't let him drop back to sit back there and survey. They run the ball. Georgia, 13th best in sack percentage. They get after the quarterback. If they're in the backfield and they're bothering Michigan, bothering McNamara early, that's going to be really, really bad news for Michigan, okay? I get it. Michigan's the hot team. Michigan under Harbaugh, back last 2 games as an underdog against ranked opponents. He's gone 2-0. I get it. Got the monkey off his back with Ohio State. I get it. I'm going to fade that. I'm going to fade the public. I'm going to lay the 7.5. I think Georgia, I don't mind an underplay in this game either, but I'm worried about turnovers. This could change the entire game. I mean, pick sixes and fumble returns. I think Georgia's defense, one prop bet, if I find it, that I will bet is Georgia's defense to score in this game. I will throw a sprinkle down on Georgia's defense to score. I think there's a real possibility that this Michigan team gets out of sorts and they're on a neutral field and they're just in this environment that they haven't been in. Georgia's been expecting to be here all year. This is time for them to get after a quarterback and get after a defense or an offense with their defense. And I think it's led. I don't think they're going to have to ask their offense to do all that much. I think they could just basically kick field goals and win this game. I don't think Michigan scores. But again, pick sixes and such, big plays potentially, one or two of them maybe from Michigan. 45.5, I would lean to the under, but I told you guys I have not been playing totals for a while here, and rightfully so. I'll bet a couple of totals and overs once in a while, like Tennessee Purdue was an automatic. But certain games, this is not one of them. You can paint very clear pictures on both sides. I'm going to lay the 7.5. I was hoping for 7. I'm never going to get back to 7. Georgia minus 7.5 for 1 unit against Michigan. I just think this Georgia defense is going to go to work against Michigan, and it's going to be a tough day for Michigan trying to move the football against this Georgia defense. Turnovers, sacks, and not a lot of points for Michigan, and Georgia's offense just does enough. It wouldn't stun me if it's like a 24-14 type final, okay? Somewhere in that range, and it comes under, and Georgia covers the 7.5. Need them to win by 8 or more. I think it's okay. I prefer 7, but I think we're going to get it into a 2-score win here for Georgia. May need a late field goal to get there, but we're going to go Georgia minus 7.5 for 1 unit. Okay, so I've got a lot going on. I'll be in the Discord channel. I've got my show before, and then we'll be watching Alabama. I'll be on doing my show while the Gator Bowl is going on with Wake Forest and Rutgers, and then I'll be in the Discord channel for a ton watching this because it's New Year's Day. This is going to be so much fun, right? 2 huge college football playoff games, all right? Half a unit, Wake Forest, minus 9.5, first half. Cincinnati, plus 14 against Alabama, 1 unit. And we're going Georgia, minus 7.5 for 1 unit. Just FYI, this is from DraftKings, who sent this out late tonight, 6 o'clock Pacific time, 9 p.m. Eastern time. As to the money they're seeing, 85% of the handle is on Alabama, okay, at plus 14, but the number's gone up, okay? Reverse line movement in a big way. Respected money on Cincinnati. 65% of the money is on Michigan, plus 7.5. 66% of the bets are on Michigan, plus 7.5. We're fading the public here, riding with the books. Cincinnati plus the points, Georgia laying the points for the national semifinals. My name is Matt Perrault. Follow me on Twitter @SportsTalkMatt. Each and every morning, it's the Daily Juice Podcast, always being brought to you by BetMGM.